In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can recreate an Ed Sheeran type production, whether you are a type beat music producer or you're a music artist wanting to do something that sounds similar to the style of Ed Sheeran, then this is a video for you. Now, the song that I modeled this around today was Bad Habits, so you are going to hear some close resemblance, which aren't copyright, but the whole point of me making this was it's a type beat channel that I do all these beats for, so I wanted something that was similar so people could recognize it, so people who come looking for certain beats which are to the style of that song exactly aren't going to be disappointed with something that's close to it. But again, like, I'm going to talk you through the ideas from start to finish, how I have recreated stuff and then made it my own, or how I have implemented ideas of a similar sound but changed up to make it original. So what you're looking at now is the project in Logic, and I'm going to quickly play you a little snippet of the end with everything in. Now, if you're listening to this song and you know Ed Sheeran Bad Habits, you will know that you would definitely tell that that is influenced off that. There's a couple of things that I took from Bad Habits to start and really get myself going in creating this song. So we're going to break down from the start, starting with the drums, which is in this pink here. So the first thing, this is what I built, was the drums. I always, when I am recreating songs or whether I'm making type beats, the first thing I always look at is the drums, because the drums is the easiest thing to get yourself going, and you want to get yourself into the routine early doors that you can get it done. So this is basically how I went about it. We started with the kick, which again, like, this is a kick that I've taken from Splice, which I like the sound of, and I've mixed it just a little bit because I found the kick is a little bit on the low muffled side, so I was looking for a kick which was quite, let's say, bass heavy, but not as much in the brightness. And then with that, I added a couple of different snares layered to create the snare sound, and you hear it's just 4 on the floor. And because it's such a simple drum beat, I then added some hi-hats, which I used to sample delay to give them a bit more of a bias to the left-hand side of the mix, but make it sound like the track's starting to become stereo. All together now. So yeah, so just literally just by doing that, we have the groove of the song. Obviously, I checked that the BPM was 122 of Ed Sheeran Bad Habits before I started doing this remake. Now, one of the most iconic things that I wanted to try to take from the Ed Sheeran Bad Habits, which is something which, like, you know, if you listen to Bad Habits or a beat like that, you'd know, is that sort of bass line, that counter bass, which is on the offbeat, which again I've kind of recreated to an extent where I've used different chords, and like in Ed Sheeran it varies between 3 chords per bar. This has 4 chords, so again we're not trying to copy it exactly, but we get the same feel. So here we go, we've got 2 bass sounds here. And if we're just listening to the start of the first chord of Ed Sheeran Bad Habits, you would say that is very close, but that is how it's done. And this, for anyone who's wondering what sound this is a sound that you can find in Massive. It's the dry and wet. The dry and wet in Massive. I haven't really done anything to this, rather than I believe I turned down oscillator 2 a little bit, and I turned the release all the way down as well, just to give a bit more of a clean sound. So that is what I did for the bass, and I also did an EQ raising the low and also a little bit in the brightness as well, just to give it a little bit of an air quality to it. So literally we've got most of the first part of the chorus done already before we started mapping out the song, where we go on to probably the hardest thing to replicate in Bad Habits, and that's the sound of all the guitars together. Now, they're very modulated, there's a lot of reverb on there, so I wanted to try and recreate that. So we're just going to guitars here. I got a lot of different guitars stacked. It's a mixture of electric and acoustic. I have used MIDI because, again, like when I'm doing type beats, I tend to get a little bit lazy and I use MIDI, but these are native instruments. It's the electric vintage and the picked acoustic. They sound absolutely great. So I'm just going to quickly play the first electric guitar chords that I laid down, which not only gone into contact, it's just it's the raw electric guitar sound. So I added a lot of reverb in the ROM, and for pedals to try and get that the sort of modulate effect, I used the retro chorus, and on top of that channel EQ, just rolling off the high end a little bit so it's not as harsh. So this is what I've got. And you can hear the acoustic guitar that I've got with it. It's mixed in the exact same way. and they're both doubled through Native Instruments, so that's why you can hear it left and right. So the mix of your hearing in headphones. And obviously that's not enough, so I also laid down some acoustic guitar bass notes, and also a melodic acoustic guitar. And also chucked an electric guitar of the same, copying that melody. Put it all together, you get something that sounds pretty close to the sound of Bad Habits intro. So yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. I was pretty proud when I came up with that. Again, it's very simple, but again, like, what I've done is used a reverb and a stock pedal to get quite close to that, and this is something that you can very easily do the same. So if we put together what we have so far, you've got what sounds like almost a pretty good chorus for a Bad Habits Ed Sheeran type beat. Now, we weren't done there though, because again, we need to create a sense of atmosphere, and there's a kind of bit of a retro, almost sort of like an 80s synth vibe going on in the background. So I wanted to add a couple of different synths. The first one is Analog Waves, which is a preset that you can find in Logic. And let's just see what that sounds like by itself. Let's follow the root note, by the way. And then I added a retro synth stock plugin. I love using stock presets rather in Logic. They've got some great presets, especially in the retro synth. I love that. Just personally as a producer, just personally always love the retro synth in Logic, so I always try and chuck something in there. So the Berlin Experience, it follows using the first, third and fifth notes of the chords as go along, just to try and mix it up a little bit. When I say mix up, I thought it was the whole thing, turns out just that note. But again, when you put these two together, you got something that starts a little bit of atmosphere. And now, one last synth, I did the 80s Starlight. Now, this is a synth that you can actually hear in the background of Bad Habits Ed Sheeran, so I wanted to try and incorporate, because when I was listening to the Bad Habits and breaking down the elements in my head before adding them in, I found that this was a sound that came up. So if we add them all together, we've got our synth section, adding a little bit of atmosphere to the track. And if we play everything together, this is what the chorus sounds like. Now, as this is a backing track, vocals are going to be added, and it's going to build the production up a lot more, at least from a feel point of view. But I wanted to add something to the end of the chorus to add a little bit more development. Now, in the chorus, there was this vocal chop up of sounded like a female voice saying like an ah or a. Couldn't really describe it, so I literally got a vocal ah from Splice. I chopped it up and made this sound. As you can see, it's been chopped up a lot, and from an effects point of view, channel EQ in there, really tried to muffle it out, get rid of anything below 300 hertz and above 3k hertz, put a pedal on there with the retro chorus, and I opted out of a phaser in the end, but we've got reverb, and then we've got another chorus effect on there, and this is the effect. And it might not sound like much, but if we play this with this last chorus, you can definitely tell there's a difference, but it also adds a little bit more energy, because it's something on every beat which is driving the song on. Playing the C, so it's always in key. And of course, last things I did was little touches, like I added a reverse crash in certain sections just to help stamp each section and move on to the next one, and add some rise and build. Again, I wanted to keep similar ideas from Ed Sheeran Bad Habits, so when it goes from the pre to the chorus, I kept that whole sort of cut that happens in, but let the synths roll on just a little bit, so it didn't go dead for too long before we go into the drop. Okay, now you may think that I've covered everything, but I haven't. There's one little thing which, if you're a beginner into producing, you may not know so much about, and that is automation. Now, this is something that I've used to almost add development to a production without adding any ideas or taking out, and this is using what we've got here is a high cut filter. So automating this channel EQ that I've got built into the track stack here. So as the track plays, you'll see the filter moves. And it's rolling the high end off the guitar to make it sound different. You can hear it moving, and it's also really great for creating a sense of a build. So if you listen to this section here, you're going to hear it start to slowly creep up. And it's almost like the production's building to something without adding any other ideas. And it's just the little things like that, the little details which can really help a production flow. So it's not always about having to add another idea every 4 bars, for example, to keep the song flowing. You can do little ideas like that automation, which is great for it. But overall, that is how I made my production of Bad Habits, and which is the type beat. And, you know, like the only thing I had to do after that was just, like, you know, structure it very similar to the way Bad Habit is, and this is a song. So literally, this is the video, guys. It's very simple. That's why I wanted to keep it short and sweet, because, again, like, this is how easy it can be to recreate ideas from a production to make a type beat of your own. And you can see, like, I've implemented ideas from Ed Sheeran, which has arrived at a production which sounds very similar to Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. So again, like, use any of the sort of things that I've told you. Like, for example, one of the main things is always break down certain sounds of production and try and use them in a different way, like I have. And then you can find that you can go to any artist you want to recreate, and you can implement that, and you'll be able to come out something very similar. But yeah, guys, I'm going to play this from start to finish. I hope you enjoyed this video and enjoy this little type beat of Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran. But yeah, guys, that was a video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching to the end. And if you want to see me try and recreate any other artist type productions, then comment below who I should do next. But anyway, hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel or if you enjoyed this video. And until then, guys, keep making music, and I will see you in the next video.